Hello guys, and welcome to this week's weekend analysis. Now, just before we start the weekend analysis and breakdown, I would just like to say, although weekend analysis is good, I prefer or would suggest you to wait for Monday to actually happen and to gain an idea of what the market wants to do after Monday has finished, or unless there is a clear-cut opportunity on Monday that you would prefer to take. But other than that, I would suggest that you do wait for Monday to happen, Monday to finish, before taking any trades, so we could show you the direction for the week ahead. So as you can see, we're currently on the weekly time frame for GJ, and last week's candle was very bullish. We are tapping into very higher prices on the chart. We could start to see sort of a reversal at this tweezer top. Also is previous structure related. However, the sentiment and fundamentals haven't changed. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did sort of have some sellers around this area, but overall I think we can still push through. If we look at the daily, the only one thing about the weekly is, like I have been saying for a couple of weeks now, if you're on the Telegram or did see the last week breakdown, which was on a Tuesday, every JPY pair is overextended currently. So I would just be aware that JPY is very oversold right now. So there is meant to be a pullback. Typically there isn't supposed to be a run this long without having some sort of pullback. However, if we do have some technicals, the last daily lower high was around this area. So again, on the daily time frame, I would expect some sort of retracement, whether that is into this area here or it is a little bit deeper. As long as we don't break this high here, which I don't think we should, the buyers are still in control and we should see a higher high formed. So that could be a target for on the daily time frame around this area. Again, I like to use the body to the wick, but it's all down how you like to trade. If we do jump onto the 4 hour, we do see the last higher low is actually just above what I just pointed out. We're gonna get it right. Yep. If we zoom in here, so yeah, this is sort of the retest of the former resistance. I did say the 150 area would be hard to break, but last week we broke through that very nicely. We did have sort of a retest before pushing up, but I think clearly on the daily time frame we do need some sort of pullback at least. On the 4 hour, where that is too, we're not too sure. We may see some bearish 4 hour continuation before seeing something like this, or even a little bit lower into this area here. The 4 hour low is currently here, but again, the daily time frame, the low is down here. So if we don't break this low here, we shouldn't be taking any sells unless they are smaller time frame sells, and you could have actually sold previously when price broke this lower high, or higher low, sorry, and it clearly retested. So you would have sold at the end of the week, which probably isn't recommended, but again, I do think we are going to see some sort of retracement, whether that is into this box or this box. We have to wait and see, or it may not even be in either. We may reverse before that or even after it. So again, we just have to wait and see for Monday open, but that is my overall bias. We do need some sort of pullback before continuing up, but we should continue up in the long run as long as sentiment doesn't change throughout the week. Again, if you want to keep updated on sentiment fundamentals, join the Telegram. The link is in the description. It is my or the 19 Forex Telegram, and it is open for discussion. Moving on to GBPAUD. Again, it is very messy. If we go onto the weekly time frame, we can see some sort of price action forming with higher lows forming and higher highs. Currently we're on the pullback. The last week we had a retest to the upper side of this trend before finishing bearish. On the daily we can see that price is looking a lot messier, and especially the 4 hour when we'll show you in a second. It is very messy. Again, like I said last week, I will not be trading GBPAUD because it is too messy unless we see a clear break of 1.81 level and a retest. I don't see any reason to take any buys. Again, to take any sells, we'll have to break this daily low here around 178 area. Jump into the 4 hour. Last weekend I actually gave some sort of analysis to take a buy. Eventually it did price did open in the area that I suggested, and as you can see went all the way to the upper side again. So there was that trade last week, but again after that move it was just very messy price action to the lower side. So again, there's no reason to trade it unless you are very concentrated on the GA pair. It's your favorite pair and you do the best on it. Obviously there is opportunities to gain some pips, gain some percentage and take some trades on this pair. I'm not saying there isn't, but it is hard to do, and there are other pairs that are easier to read currently. If we do break it down on a technical viewpoint, however, there is this weekly low. On the daily time frame, like I suggested, we have this sort of low here. So I think as long as we're above this, there is no reason to take any sells unless they are very smaller time frame sells. Again, smaller time frame gets messy. The 4 hour lower high, well, we're in a downwards trend now, so the 4 hour the 4 hour lower high is very messy. Could be this lower high here, or for a much cleaner one it could be this one here. So sells are sort of validated right now, but personally I would not be taking any sort of trade on GA. Looking at GBPNZD, it is in the same sort of scenario as GBPAUD. However, as you can see from the last few weeks since sort of the New Year's, it has been very messy. Again, not many opportunities long term, some opportunities short term, but again very messy. So overall we're in a downwards trend, but currently we're in a slight upper trend. Break of this sort of lower high here is much more clearer on GBPAUD, but if we do go down to the daily time frame it gets a bit easier to see. So the last lower high was around the 1.91/92 area, and as you can see we did have a break of that. Sort of messy, but it did break it and pull up. So currently we are forming higher highs and higher lows. The last higher low, or significant higher low, being at 1.9125 area. So as long as we stay above that, buys are validated. Currently we're sitting above this resistance area here. If we do jump down to the 4 hour, we can see that GBPNZD had a nice formation last week. So we can see clear breaks of higher highs and retesting them to become higher lows. Well, a few before sort of this end to the week, just sort of consolidating downwards. So again, there was no opportunities unless you took a buy at the start of the week like I suggested at the Tuesday breakdown. and weekend analysis on Telegram. But overall, not many opportunities on GBPNZD. Again, very messy. If we look at the high is around this area, probably much more able to see on the 4 hour. Yep. So as long as we are below this area, really, there is no reason to get any trades unless you're taking smaller time sells, which I don't encourage. That is it for GBPN. It's the same as GBPA, just a bit messier, in my opinion. Before we move on to the other currencies, I just want to go over the yield situation and what is happening with the yields and US dollar. Now, as we know, the yields have been impacting the US dollar very heavily recently. It's been gaining a lot of strength, the US dollar, because of where yields are going to and how fast it's been moving towards the direction. So as you can see, last week we actually had a break of the pre-pandemic levels, and this week we actually stayed above. Now if we break this on the daily time frame, we can see a nice higher low formed at the support of previous pandemic levels before continuing up. However, if we do go to the dollar index, which is DXY for those who don't know, we can see the dollar hasn't been getting stronger like the bond. So if we quickly do a comparison, as you can see from that quick comparison video, they are not the same, they're not performing the same. So specifically towards the end of last week, so clearly we can see that yields are no longer having the same effect on the US dollar. Obviously that can change. However, I think going into this week there's going to be more risk on sentiment, so that is investors investing into currencies such as Australian dollar as well as stocks. If we go on to the S&P 500, as you can see on the S&P 500, we're actually breaking highs again, so that is good news for stocks. Also proves our theory about yields, as they are no longer having an effect on US dollar, and investors are basically saying there's no need to worry about them. As you can see, S&P 500 is up, NASDAQ is also up. We will see here, as you can see, it is quite messy, but we are jumping up. If we look at last week's finish, it is a bullish candle, pretty indecisive in possibly some people's opinion, but overall bullish. Jumping down to the 4, as you can see, we are bullish. And lastly, I'm not sure about US 30 to see if it's up, but yeah, as you can see, it is up, further proving the point on yields not having as much of an effect as a few weeks ago on the US dollar. Now we have that in place, we can quickly go over Euro Australian dollar. As people know, this has been a huge focus of mine in the last few months. Probably around December time is when I was focusing on it, or started trading, or getting into the sales that I've been going over since around January, late January, early February. But quickly breakdown, last week didn't have much. I did take a sell on this, currently still in that position. It's not too far into it. In fact, we can actually check that. Here is my sort of analysis. I got an entry at 1.545 around the area, and we're currently up some pips. We can actually calculate that. It's around 50-60 pips up. Very tight stop loss, but nevertheless, let's break it down. So still in that bearish trend. The last week wasn't the best because obviously we did have Euro news. If you do not know what news there was, or not up to date with that news, then join our Telegram. I keep everyone updated. But again, we are sort of seeing bearish sentiment happen. We broke out of that consolidation period. If we look on the 4 hour, we can see we did have a break. We're currently retesting it, but I think we should continue downwards. Now the reason why I think we should continue downwards, if I actually bring up Forex Live, we can actually see that the Europe or Eurozone is struggling compared to the US. So the US has its stimulus. Biden has put that into law, and the checks are coming through the mail either this week coming, starting March the 15th, or it will be the week after that. Not too sure which week it is. But also Italy is back in another lockdown, and the whole comment was about that they are basically been doing nothing for a year, and very far behind the US. Now if we actually compare that to EURUSD very quickly, as you can see, EURUSD has been trading in bearish sentiment since the start of 2021 / end of 2020, and before that the euro had been very strong, because as we know, the US wasn't dealing with the coronavirus very well. Pandemic was pretty bad. However, change of presidency, you know, we had some more direction in how they're approaching COVID. Much better for the general public and businesses in general. So we're seeing a much firmer US dollar, not to mention the yield situation, which helped US dollar appreciate, but overall we are seeing a lot stronger US dollar compared to sort of last year, the whole of last year in fact. However, what does this mean for Euro Australian dollar, you may ask? Well, if we have a stronger US dollar compared to Euro, overall the Euro should be quite weak, so hopefully we can see a continuation of this bearish trend. The current low is sitting around 1.5275/5, 1.525 area. So it should come down to those lows, hopefully break it. Probably not a straight away break. We may see something sort of similar to this. Again, it can happen in any sort of pattern, but hopefully we can break it. And my target, as it's been for a very long time, is down to this 1.505/1.504 area. So that is my overall target. And if we quickly jump to Euro Australian dollar, as you can see, my target is here, leveled out very nicely. A quick look on the EURNZD. Again, not much happening on EURNZD. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. The daily, currently we had a sort of support held here. However, there is no break of the high yet, so there is no reason to think we are in an uptrend on the daily. Unfortunately, the week finished a little bit bullish than expected, but again, sentiment hasn't changed. I still think the euro is weak, or neutral to weak, and the New Zealand dollar is strong. So I think we should see some bearish price action in the upcoming week. I know some people did get sells in and around this period here. We did reject, and it was very painful and slow, I will admit, but I do think we do have some bearish structures to hit before continuing anywhere upwards. Just looking at the fundamentals, obviously technically we are very low, but fundamentally there's no reason to continue or even start going up. Now if we look at EURJPY on the weekly time frame, we can see the last weekly candle, or the weekly finish, do a nice bullish close, and on the daily we can see that we actually broke previous resistance, and that is good for EURJPY. Now this pair I'm sort of in two minds about. We have a weak Japanese yen, but we also have a weak euro. So personally, I won't be touching this. It heavily relies on the technicals. If we look at the 4 hour, we do see that price broke out of this consolidation quite nicely, and it even sort of retested, or it did in fact retest the previous structure high, which is nice, and that leads us to the 4 hour high low currently that we have, and then sort of the daily low, or the daily high low, is much lower at around 129 area, around 128, 129, in between those two figures, at the bottom of that consolidation period that we had. Now I wouldn't be really looking at targets for this. It is very overextended. On the weekly though, we could be targeting sort of around these highs, any of these wicks here, probably around 132 to like 1315 is my sort of rough area, or even 131. Around 131 to 132 would be a nice area to look for price to start having some sort of reaction, looking left. But then again, personally will not be trading this pair unless it is very clear that we sort of have a retest, or price action is very clear basically. The last currency pair we have is Australian dollar Japanese yen. So if we look on the weekly again, it will be a nice bullish close, just like any XJPY pair, and really this should continue going up. There's no reason for it to continue to start going down. We did have a close above the 84 area on the daily. The 4 hour, we are not currently at the highs, however we do expect to get there. I actually have a trade currently from around this area here, 83.6 area, and I have some position left. I took most out on partials, but however I still have a trade left, much less than my original position, but overall still in this trade, and I think we're going to break this high, then come back, sort of how EURJPY formed at the end of last week. I think it's going to apply to Australian dollar Japanese yen the same way. The daily low is currently sort of at the bottom of this consolidation period, just like EURJPY, but the 4 hour low is, well, very opinionated, but definitely there is a 4 hour low at 83.5/6 area, and possibly another higher low around the 84.4 area, somewhere around there. If we do go onto the hourly low or hourly time frame, we do see that there is a low just here, but overall bullish trade, bullish sentiment, sorry, bullish direction. No reason for price to go downwards that I know of as yet, but any sells, or if price does break below 83.8 area, then, and it closes, has a retest, then there is a reason to sell, as we are now sort of in a selling environment compared to a bullish environment or a buying environment. But other than that, that is basically it for all currency pairs. We do have one last thing to go through. So lastly, we do have gold. Now on the weekly time frame, we actually hit a area of support, and buyers sort of started to take control in the later areas of last week. If we jump down to the daily, we can see that overall we're still not breaking much. The last daily lower highs around this area, we have tapped into that area, but we haven't broke past it yet. And if we do jump down to the 4 hour, as we do now, we can see that price is starting to get a little bit messy. There is a low here, so if we do break this low, there is sell opportunities valid. Also, we did break this 4-hourly high, and as you can see, we did retest this area too. Nice buy upwards. You could have took this trade very nicely, but currently we're waiting for price to either break this high here. Oh, none of these things are working. So this high here or this low here, and have a respective retest of that area, or a retest in the sort of area we have planned out. Fundamentally, I think we could see bullish gold, and that is because of the ineffective yields having an impact on a stronger US dollar, but also because of the stimulus getting passed through with money getting printed. I think we could see some buyers come into control on gold. But however, again, we will have to wait for Monday open and Monday to complete for any sort of real valid information being given. This is just all speculation currently, like it is most of the time with trading. Obviously you can't be 100% sure on anything, but you can put probabilities into your side. However, that is it for this weekend breakdown. I hope you did learn something from it, and I hope you will take something away. If you did enjoy, please press that like button, and comment below any ideas you have that you want me to do. Other than that, I will see you in the later week. If you want to have an update on these pairs that I go through, then join the Telegram, link is in the description, as well as we go through fundamental analysis, and you can ask questions there. Follow me on Instagram, again, links in the description. But other than that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend and a good start to the week, and I will see you in the next one.